Looking back with hindsight, it was definitely red flags, and I didn't know anything about toxic relationships. I didn't know anything about that because I never experienced it. I literally found out overnight that he didn't want to be married to me, and not only didn't want to be married to me, he was madly in love with somebody else. When your partner's had an affair, obviously a lot of people knew about it, apart from me and my PA, it seemed, really. So when they find out that you know, they suddenly go, oh, Sara, thank God you know, because 3 months ago I was doing this and this is how I found out. And yet I don't think they realise how painful that is. I need to figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to dial down these emotions, how do I take my power back, and what do I do to move forward? Right, if there's no help out that, I'm going to create some tools to get me through, to get my son through, just to help me bounce back.
Welcome to the Heartbreak to Happiness show with Sara Davison. If you're struggling with a breakup and you feel shocked, angry, betrayed, devastated, or sad and alone, then this podcast is for you. Best-selling author and award-winning host Sara Davison shares how you too can get on with your life to heal, grow, and move from heartbreak to happiness. Here's your host, Sara Davison.
Welcome back to the show. Now, today's episode is rather unusual because due to popular demand, I am being interviewed for my very own podcast. Now, I'm being interviewed by a very dear friend of mine, Sue Hooper, who is joining me. She's also trained as a coach with me, so she's very familiar with my work. But Sue has been a TV journalist and producer for many, many years. And she's also interviewed incredible people like Victoria Beckham, Ant and Dec, and Nicolas Cage. So I know I'm going to be in good hands. But before I introduce Sue and hand the reins over to her, I'd like to just mention about our sponsor for today's episode. So today's episode is sponsored by Payne Hicks Beach. Now, they are arguably one of the strongest family law firms in the industry, providing enviable strength and depth in both financial and children law areas. But not only are they the best in class in the courtroom and at the negotiating table, after years of experience of supporting clients through the most vulnerable times in their lives, they have recently launched a brand new resource on mental health and family breakdown, which is leading the family law industry in looking at ways to guide, support, and help clients for the best possible outcome through some of their darkest days. Now, you can contact PHB by emailing vhinkston@phb.co.uk, and don't forget to quote Sara Davison. Now, back to this episode and over to Sue. So, welcome, Sue, to my podcast.
I know. And how does it feel sitting on the sofa?
It feels very strange.
Does it?
It's slightly intimidating.
Does it? Yeah, because I'm slightly higher up.
Yes.
So I can just sort of like loom at you slightly and ask you all these questions.
I'm a bit nervous, but I trust you, so it's good.
Good. Well, I trust you too to give me all the right answers. I'm just going to go straight in there because one of the things, because I know you, but sometimes when I read what you've done in such a concentrated amount of time, I wonder where you get all the energy from. I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm going 650 coaches, 2 best-selling books, 5 continents, 27 countries, fantastic online support group, lobbying parliament. I mean, and yet you look fresh-faced. I mean, I'd be crawling out of bed in the morning. I mean, where do you get that drive from?
That's a really good question. And I get asked that a lot, actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, it was funny. I did a big conference for my coaches the other weekend and I had a judge speaking.
Yeah.
Which was a bit of a coup because getting a judge, like a big name judge.
Because most of them, they can be quite negative about this, can't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. He's quite brave, I would say, to come on. But he came up to me, he watched me for a bit before he came on stage. I think he wanted to get his bearings and sort of see what he'd walked into. And I came off stage, she said, Sara, what did you have for breakfast? Because I want some of that.
Yeah. And so do I. Yes.
Well, I mean, for me, as you know, like self-care is really important. Yeah. And this is something I stress a lot to my coaches.
Yeah.
because I can't do this without looking after myself.
Yeah.
I never used to, and I learned the hard way. I used to crash a lot. I used to struggle with the
So
early
you
mornings.
used to have like peaks and troughs and things. Yeah.
And so what I learned is that I have to build in the things that support me, even when I don't feel like doing them.
Yeah.
So I have an amazing support team around me. So I have my trainer, Dave, who I can't live without. At least
Shout out to Dave.
Shout out to Dave.
Yes.
Yeah. Cube Fitness in Sunningdale. Love
Right.
him.
Yes. Maybe
Can't-
you'll get some free memberships. Yeah.
He really does keep me sane. So I train at least 3 times a week with him. I have a treadmill at home, so I do like to use that.
Yeah.
I walk Toffee, my dog, every day, at least twice, and that's my switch off time.
But that's sort of like, you're still expending physical energy doing that. What I'm really interested in is this passion that you have for what you do. And I know you obviously went through your own story with this, but I mean, when you were, for example, when you were at school, what sort of student were you? Were you like fully into things all the time? Did you just go like this and it would streamline yourself to actually achieve all the goals that you've wanted? Or is it something that's come with experience and situations that have triggered it?
To be honest, I think I'm driven by like a pain of injustice.
Yeah.
That flame is lit and that fire is burning. And I wasn't this person at school. In fact, at school, I think maybe it started then. Like I wasn't very popular. I definitely wasn't top of the class like you. I definitely wasn't that person.
I wasn't. And you're definitely popular now.
but I was none of those things. You know, I wasn't particularly sporty. I like sport, but I wasn't like in the A team.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of those things for me, I was just sort of average, and I never thought I would really achieve much unless I was a prefect. And I had this thing in my head that I would, dream to be a prefect. So I did everything I could to be a prefect. So I, did the drama plays. I got involved in the music and the orchestra and all sorts of things. And then when they announced the names, I wasn't a prefect.
Oh no.
And that was actually
You
one of
gutted.
I was, but I mean, really devastated.
What did your mum and dad say about it?
They were upset, I think. I think everyone was genuinely upset because they knew how hard I'd tried and how hard I'd worked for that. So that had been a bit of a focus. But actually, as with everything, I think with hindsight, looking back at that was quite a defining moment of, oh, so you don't think I'm good enough to be a prefect? Okay, well, let me show you something.
How old were you?
Must have been 17 probably at the time, 16, 17. And then I had another moment like that in one of my jobs where I worked for Coca-Cola. It was my first ever job.
Right.
And
I've heard about this.
Yeah.
And what, you were going around pubs in
London.
In the East End?
So, yeah. All
Didn't
over
you need
London.
a bouncer or something?
Oh, it was
at one
very
stage?
dangerous, and I don't think they quite realised how dangerous it was. I mean, the things I saw and the people and the situations I was exposed to were quite terrifying. I must have been very early 20. It must have been 20. So driving around London.
Quite ballsy.
Yeah. I mean, definitely I loved it. It was fun, but it was quite dangerous as well. And a couple of times I had to back out and get myself out of situations and call in backup help as well. My friend Jamie was working with us in the same team. He had to fly in and save me a few times from some pretty serious incidents. Yeah. One of them being thrown out of a pub into the car park, and my laptop followed.
You were thrown out of the pub?
Literally, he lifted me up over his shoulder, took me into the car park and flung me across.
Why did he do that?
I think because I came in a suit, and this was a pub in the East End, and I had a little computer I needed to attach to the Coca-Cola machine, and he obviously just said, nah, get out.
Geez, Sara, okay. So that was like, how long did you do that job for? 2 weeks?
No, I did it for, I don't know. Well, about 8 months in, I went for a promotion because I was like, okay, I'm nailing this. I'm hitting my targets.
Yeah.
I'm going for a promotion. And the promotion was to stack fridges in newsagents, like to manage the 2 people that drove the Coca-Cola van to stack those fridges.
Right.
And they laughed at me. And they said, Sara, there's absolutely no way that you are ready to do this. That's a management job. I was like, I'm managing 2 people stacking fridges in newsagents. So I was like, I think I can do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was literally told, you're above your station. Get back in your box kind of thing. And that's when I left and set up my first company. And
wow. How old were you?
21.
Wow, okay, yeah. I'm starting to see where this is all coming from, yes.
The irony of that was I was running events, never having run events in my life, right?
Yeah.
So but I was passionate because it was running about self-help and personal development. So I was promoting speakers from the States, flying them over to the UK. And I'd hired a room in London, a big sort of event room, and I was expecting about 400 people to turn up for this event.
Yeah.
And I'd arrived and the hotel manager said, well, you can go in, but the company in there at the moment are a bit slow getting their stuff out. So you can go in and shimmy them out if you like.
Yeah.
So I went in, and you'll never guess who it was.
Who?
It was my boss from Coca-Cola. He told me I couldn't do the management job.
Synchronicity.
Yes.
Synchronicity.
And he said, oh, Sara, did you get yourself a job? Are you okay?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, you see that silver TT outside?
Yeah.
And he went, yeah. I said, well, that's mine. And I've got 400 people turning up in about 3 hours. So if you don't mind,
Good for
hurrying
you.
up.
Good for you.
And he was very decent. He was like, well done you, Sara. Well done.
Yeah.
But it was one of those defining moments, a bit like
Yeah.
the prefect thing. I was like, right, okay.
It sounds to me like there are some defining moments in your life, as there are with everybody. But it seems very clear to me, like when you're setting up your own business at 21,
Yeah.
and how you wanted to be a prefect and you've always worked hard for things. So you've got this sort of burning inside of you to achieve. I'm just interested in your family background and your mum and your dad. I mean, were they the same way? Did they instill that in you?
My dad's always been like had his own businesses, worked for himself.
Yeah.
His parents were the same. I think pretty much we're all totally unemployable, which is why we do it, because we don't like being told what to do, and we always think, well, yeah, we could do it this way and that way.
Yeah.
My mum has always been a teacher. She's worked with people with learning difficulties all her life. So I think that teaching, that empathy, that caring side probably comes from my mum.
Yeah.
And my dad's got that drive as an entrepreneur. He loves having his own businesses.
And you were brought up with confidence by the sounds of it. You felt that you could do things that you set your mind to.
I think I developed the confidence, but I think I always knew that I had a soft landing because I had a family that loved me, and I had a brother I'm still very close to. So we're a very close-knit family.
Yeah.
And so I think that gives you that stability.
It's like an underbelly.
Yeah.
That you can then just sort of like a trampoline that you can bounce on and
Yeah.
achieve things.
Yeah.
So you had this wealth of experience. I'm interested in when you first got involved in coaching. How did that then come in? Because you were doing the events. What happened after that?
Well, just before I set that business up, my dad had sent me on a Tony Robbins course.
Oh, wow.
And the only reason he'd done that was because he had clients in the States, and he said, look, I thought I was done paying for your education and my brother's education. And I was working for Coca-Cola, and he said, look, sorry, there's this guy in America we saw. I think you should go and have a look at it. So I'm going to send you and your brother to Belgium.
God, that's really forward thinking of your dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just in case no one knows, Tony Robbins, do you want to give a brief explanation?
He's basically the world's #1 performance coach. Absolutely phenomenal. A really decent guy on stage, off stage. I've had the pleasure of meeting him, lots of different scenarios, and working with his company. I mean, really phenomenal. Opened my eyes to this whole world of self-help, personal growth, personal development. And he's American, and he's like 6'9", massive, huge energy. If you think I've got energy, you see this guy. I mean, he's literally on stage from like 9 a.m. till midnight, like go, 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 go. I mean, insane, totally infectious.
So were you in your 20s when you went to see Tony Robbins?
I was 20.
Yeah. Wow.
So I went to see him, and interesting, my brother didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. I was like, so this guy on stage is telling me I can have my own business, I can be successful, I don't have to work for somebody else, I can be what I want to be. And I was thinking, this is crazy. Like, I didn't get taught this at school. I didn't get any of this at school.
Which is actually, when you think about it, what a great thing to teach kids.
Yeah,
it would be amazing.
You can control your own destiny. You just have to dream big and then put the steps in place.
That's an amazing thing that your dad did. That was amazing. Yeah.
And from that, I came back, and that's when I started to go, right, if I was going to have my own business then, because Tony says I can, what would it be? And then it was like, well, I'd work in self-help for sure, because I was a total geek for the NLP side, the neuro-linguistic programming. I loved the people I'd met on the course. I loved the content. And I was like, right, okay, give me more. How do I do this? Well, if I could design the ideal job, it would be working in this field, having my own business. But what could I do? Because I know that the guys at Coca-Cola think I'm not capable of managing, but how do I do this?
Yeah.
So I basically created a business plan and went back to my mum and dad's and said, look, I know you think I've got a job and I've got a flat and I'm sort of, this is me. But how about I jack all that in and I go with this?
Good for you.
Yeah. And
so you did a business plan age 20.
Yeah, with some help.
Yes.
But yeah, and my dad then looked at the numbers. He's much better at numbers than me.
Yeah.
And
But
went,
you'd
okay.
actually done numbers and everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I sort of projected, well, if I can sell this many tickets to this many events and the costs are about this, and, you know, anyway, Dad said, well, yeah, we'll support you if you want to do that. Go for it.
Great.
I mean, not financially, but just like emotionally support me.
Yeah.
And I basically set the business up with a laptop, which was, it wasn't really a laptop then, pretty old. So it was like a big, big computer.
Yeah, one of these you both hands full basically to carry it around. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, I set that up and it took off, and we turned over, I think it was almost $1 million in our first year.
Oh my God. Okay. I
And
hope
that
my
was-
boys are listening to this. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
but
mean, this is pretty impressive stuff for a 20-year-old.
yeah, I mean,
Do you realise that or not? Or do you just think it's like everyone just goes
Well, I
and does
think it was a
business
bit of
plans
luck.
age 20 and,
it was definitely luck.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
And
riding
hard
the
work.
crest of a wave that had not been tapped.
Right.
So the only other person in that field was Paul McKenna, who is an absolute legend in this field.
Yeah.
And I burst onto the scene as this 21-year-old, and he was older than me. And he was like, who is this person now? I'm trying to sell tickets to my events. And they're going, well, actually, I'm going to go to this event that Sara Davison's running with this American speaker. And he's like,
Yeah.
I was the only one doing
So
this.
were you working with Tony Robbins then?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, actually, some of his speakers that I'd met on his courses asked me to fly them over and put on events.
Great.
So that's how I started.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So you did $1.5 million in your first
No,
year?
just under $1 million
Just
in my
under.
first year.
Oh,
Yeah.
shame, just under.
Yeah.
That's such a shame.
It was
such a
funny.
shame.
It was funny, yeah, because the bank manager, one of the banks, wouldn't give me because I had to take payments over the phone, and you
Yeah.
needed a customer not present sort of thing to do it.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the bank that I've been with for years wouldn't give it to me. It was Lloyd's Bank, actually. I could say that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give it
Shame
to
on
me.
you, Lloyd's Bank.
And I went to various people, and because I was so young, people were like, no. And then my dad took my business plan to his bank, NatWest. And because my dad had banked with them for a long time, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was just under 30 years ago. They gave me.
So they
gave me
wouldn't
a
give
go.
it to you because of your age?
They just said, look, it's too risky. So I said, so you're actually saying I should stay in my job at Coca-Cola? I was earning $14,500 a year rather than do this, which by my estimate could make me $750,000 this year, and actually
Yeah.
do a bit better than that.
Wow.
And they said, well, when you put it like that, it doesn't sound good, but ultimately, yes.
Right.
So I was like, right, well,
it's
again,
goodbye,
screw
Lloyds,
you.
hello,
Let me
NatWest.
just move on here.
Yeah.
And my dad
Recurring
introduced-
theme here, I can
Yeah,
see.
it's interesting actually.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah.
So I went to the NatWest. They gave it to me. Said, "Well, okay, we'll do it,
Hooray.
Sara."
Yeah.
And then he came to see me at the end when my accounts were closed and they saw how much I made. He actually came to see me. It was back in the day when bank managers would come out and meet you. And he just said, "I just need to say huge congratulations
Isn't that
because
nice?
you're 21 and look what you've achieved."
Wow.
And against all the odds. So yeah, that was amazing. So those little things make a big difference.
They do, and it's like building blocks.
Yeah.
So then when perhaps something happens in your life which isn't great, you are in a position where you can deal with it, maybe because you've gone through adversity before or challenges, that you've then used that experience to make things better.
Yeah.
Or to try and flip them to make them something
Yeah.
positive. So this is all going really well, super, super fantastic. And then something happens with your mum.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I was 27, 28, and my mum,
I've got goosebumps because I know your mum and she's gorgeous.
yeah, and she had a brain hemorrhage, but it was completely out of the blue. So super close family, and so my mum and dad said, we're going on this cruise around the Caribbean. We're flying out to America. We're going to be at Heathrow, and I was living in North London, so I was like, well, I'll come down and have dinner with you because you're going for 2.5, 3 weeks. I won't see you, so I'll come down and have dinner with you at the hotel. So drove down there, and mum had one of her migraines, and she used to get them a lot. And she said, no, I'll be all right. I think I'm just stressed about the flight. So we had dinner, and then it was dark, and my mum's like, right, make sure you walk Sara to her car and make sure she gets in her car all right in the car park.
Being a mummy.
Yeah. And so my dad walked me out. My mum went up to the room because they were staying there to get up at 5 to fly. And I drove back to North London, and as I was getting in the door, my phone rang, and it was my dad, and everything, his just voice, when you just know.
Yeah.
He just said, can you come back? Mum's not well. And I said, what do you mean not well? And he said, we're on our way to Charing Cross Hospital. Can you meet us there? And I was like, okay. So weirdly, I packed a bag, which I didn't know anything at the time. I didn't know how serious it was, but I packed a bag with things that would last me like 4 or 5 days. So that was quite unusual.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to get to Charing Cross Hospital either. But I got in the car and I drove straight there. And when I arrived there was a car park space right outside, which never happened in the 3 months that Mum was there after that.
Wow. Yeah.
And basically, she'd had a brain hemorrhage and she was unconscious. And when I walked in, I didn't think she was alive because she was lying on a trolley. Her arms were off the sides.
That's shocking. Shocking though to see that, isn't it? Because then you didn't. And if I'm thinking about the way that you've told me this story before, you were there for a long time, weren't you? And you worked bloody hard to get your mum back on track again.
Yeah, I mean, we all did. I mean, definitely the doctors saved my mum. They definitely saved my mum. They did it was like 14 brain surgery operations. Each one they were saying that she's probably not going to make it. And there's a period of time, I think it's 21 days when you have a brain hemorrhage where you're at risk of having a stroke, which then leads to paralysis or death because there's so much blood on the brain. And you're walking around the ward and people are saying, what day are you? Well, I'm day 8. What day are you? I'm day 18. Oh, you're nearly there. Okay. After day 21, the risks of death massively reduce. So that was, it was incredibly hard. And we stayed in a hotel across from the hospital, and me and my dad and my brother literally took it in shifts, so she was never on her own. And I just finished the hypnotherapy training with Paul McKenna.
Yeah.
So I called him because we'd become good mates, and I was like, look, can you help me? I've written a script. And he safety checked it for me because obviously we were talking to, Mum was in a coma. So hearing's the last thing to go.
Yeah.
So what you program your brain with in that stage is important. And he really helped. So created that. And then I was very good friends, one of my dearest friends ever, a barefoot doctor, Stephen Russell. He's a well-known healer. He's written loads of, I think, 14 books. And he had been a big part of my journey, and we were doing some work together. And I said, well, you've got to come, Stephen, and help my mum. And he was like, no, I'm going to help you. This is my turn to stand behind you. You can help heal your mum. You've got a gift, and I want you to work. And I was like, this is not the time, Stephen. You live 2 minutes up the freaking road. Get your ass down here. And he was like, no. And I'm like, that's incredibly brave. But he told me, your mum's going to be okay. She's being looked after. This is your time. And he did support me incredibly well throughout that. But he never came to the hospital to see my mum. And that was like a big deal because that was our friendship. But he believed, even though the nurses and doctors said she's probably not going to make it, he believed she'd be okay. And luckily she was amazing. She made an incredible recovery.
Amazing.
But it was 3 months of being in a coma and 5 months of rehab, learning to walk and talk again. And
a long time, a lot of pressure over a long time.
And obviously I'd been all about career at that point.
Yeah.
Like I had my car, I had my designer handbags. My brother made the mistake of telling my dad that the handbag that was under the bed in the hospital, what it was worth.
Did your dad freak?
My dad was like, what? Give me the bag, give me the bag. Let's put it up here, let's look after. I'm like, Dad, just screw the bag. No, just everything has changed for me. Like bag's irrelevant now. Family is important.
Yeah.
And so that was a pivotal time. I was 28, 29 during that.
Yeah.
And I really realised that actually, yes, career was important. Yes, I loved that entrepreneurial
But that was nearly
life.
a year of caring for your mum and living with the idea that, as you said, you had that horrible moment where you had the days where you were basically thinking, what day is it? What day is it?
Yeah.
Because it was, did you say 13 operations?
14
operations. Yeah. And now you would know with your mum, which is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, she made an incredible recovery. And that was a lot to do with what Barefoot was helping me with. But other healers came down. There's a lady called Gloria Else who does acupuncture, who I still in contact. She's been on my podcast before, actually.
Yeah.
And lots of other amazing people came together. Seika Nikolic, who I know you know.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She did some amazing healing. So there's lots of people that were involved in that journey.
So your past life came in and helped you through one of the most traumatic times of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and also because I was promoting a guy that was talking about creating money and trading on the stock market at the time, that was one of Tony's speakers. My dad had trained with him and was able to support himself, so he didn't need to work through using that as well. So there were so many things that had been set up
Yeah.
to enable us all to take basically 18 months off and look after mum.
Yeah, synchronicity is quite an interesting thing sometimes, isn't it? When you look at it, when you're
Yeah.
retrospective and you look at your life and you see how everything comes together. So you come out of that period shaken. You've been through a huge traumatic event, because sometimes it's the people watching it rather than the person involved, because sometimes they're not even conscious. So you've been watching all of this.
Yeah.
Where did that leave you?
I think I was a bit lost for a while, because who I thought I was and who I was comfortable as, my identity was like career woman, and I'm doing this and I'm making this happen, and I'm running events with big people and like lots of people and some really great speakers, and I'd met Tony Robbins, and I'd had some, I've met some incredible friends at the Tony events who are still some of my closest friends today. So Jason Vale, the Juice Master, still one of my dearest friends. Eric Edmeades, who now does WildFit. We were all the front rowers. Paul McKenna used to call us front rowers. We used to run in and get the front seats just to take it all in. Because we were all like going to go off and use this to redesign our whole
And it's
whole
worked.
lives.
Yeah. It's worked.
Yeah,
When you look at it.
Jason and Eric are incredible at what they do, and they're helping thousands, if not millions, of people around the world, those two, and I love them to bits, and they've always got my back. And even if we all live in different countries, but we're all super close.
But you were all there together at the beginning.
Yeah,
It's like a little tribe, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
It's a deep love, like family.
But you felt lost after that.
Yeah, I think coming out, I just didn't really know who I was then, what was my purpose, because I thought it was this career woman, but I had this overwhelming urge to have a family, because I realised that family was the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I saw how my dad stood by my mum.
Yeah.
And that, my mum and dad are incredible.
They've got a
Their
great
love,
relationship.
it's the most romantic, loving, caring, playful relationship, and they've been together over 50 years, and they're still madly in love, and they still do everything together, and it's just beautiful. And that is something that inspires me, because they've got each other there, and I've never experienced that. So, and at that point I've been dating, but nothing serious, because I was putting my career first every single time.
Yeah. And then enter
then,
stage left.
dun dun dun. Yeah, then I met my ex-husband,
Right.
who I got introduced to through
At
somebody.
quite a vulnerable time, can I just say, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, because I was desperate for love. And then also I was turning 30.
Yeah. Right.
So there's that TikTok.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, right, the next guy, for some reason, I don't know if this happened to you, but when I'm 30, this is the time now. I should be settling down. I should be having kids, because so I've dated all these people before.
Yeah.
And that
All
was
your friends are getting married.
Yeah.
You're sort of looking around, and some of them are pregnant, some of them have had kids. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
So you just assume that you're ready now, and the next person should be it. You
Yeah.
don't think, well, this could be a repeat of some of the other major disasters I've had. You just go, oh, because my age is 30, this is the one.
Yeah. Bing, tick.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
did seem to tick all the boxes, to be honest.
Yeah.
Did really seem to tick all the boxes. Interested in self-help, personal development, had done some of the Tony Robbins courses. Big tick for me at that stage.
Yeah, I bet.
Because didn't think I was a Fruit Loop, kind of got it like that. High energy, and relatively successful in their own field, doing their thing. So and it was great. We got together, loved traveling, and we'd been together probably a couple of years, and then got engaged. But we set up the business almost straight away.
Okay.
Together,
Right.
and that grew, and we got married.
Yeah.
And the business.
So on paper,
yeah,
all looked really good.
yeah,
Better than good.
yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. Huge prospects, like very exciting. And then I had my son, Santi.
Yeah.
And so, looking back with hindsight, it was definitely red flags. And I didn't know anything about toxic relationships. I didn't know anything about that, because I'd never experienced it. I'd never met.
Well, you've got your mum and your dad as your templates.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
So why would you, apart from, if you had a few weird exes down the line, then you probably were looking there and going, well, this is all, as I said, this is on paper, this works really well.
Yeah.
What were can you talk about some of the red flags that you didn't see?
I just think that I believe that marriage was forever. And I went into it 100% committed that if we had problems, we worked them through. And so when things came up, I would look at it very much, well, is this my fault? And, quite a lot of the blame was given to me. And I quite sort of, I I don't like conflict. I don't want to go head into it, and I will avoid it if I can. So I think I was vulnerable as well because I wanted this to work. And so I think I overlooked some sort of confusing behavior or, things not really being as I thought they were. And I didn't know the term gaslighting or love bombing or anything like that at the time.
They weren't really around either, were they? I mean,
no. So I felt hard and fast because it was everything I thought that you were supposed to, this was the fairy tale. You get this and it's great.
Yeah.
And the bad times, there's bad times in all relationships. And I didn't have that depth of understanding. So, and it was only, and I literally probably didn't even realize how bad it was until I was out of it. I mean, we had a very successful business together. We had almost 200 staff at that point. We had an office in Sydney, Australia. We had an office in London. We were running something like 60 events a week somewhere in the world.
Wow.
It was crazy. Super successful. We were having a great time, but obviously there were clearly challenges because I literally found out overnight that he didn't want to be married to me. And not only didn't want to be married to me, he was madly in love with somebody else.
Literally overnight?
Yeah.
After how many years of being married and being together?
Santi was nearly 2, so we'd probably been together about 4 or 5 years. And then we had...
No signs, nothing like that? I mean, you had the red flags, but there was nothing that you'd sort of seen where you thought that he might be having an affair?
No. I mean, I just didn't think that would ever happen. I just really didn't see it coming at all. And then it was...
So you had the fairy tale, and then you had the not the fairy tale within the space of a day.
Yeah.
Like everything just imploded.
Yeah.
That's another traumatic event though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because that's like, it's not like a slow awakening to things not being right.
Well, I say that. I think there was a couple of stages because I went through that real denial. So I'd been in our Sydney office with Santi and I'd flown back and he didn't come to the airport, which was unusual. And when I got back, I thought, right, the only way to get over my jet lag was just to go for a run or go to the gym. So I there was a gym downstairs in our apartment. So I said, right, I'm going to go down there. So my side of the bed was the side that you had to sort of squeeze down by the side of the window.
Yeah.
So I kind of squeezed down there because in my bedside table, I always kept a lip balm. And I thought, I'll just grab that because I'm not going to put makeup on. Just put some lip balm and go to the gym.
Yeah.
And as I opened that drawer, there was a contact lens box. Well, I don't wear contact lenses. So I was like, well, that's unusual. And I opened it up and inside was a big fat eyelash, like false eyelash.
Okay.
And at the time I was like, shut it, put it straight back in the drawer, shut the drawer. And kind of went, I don't know what that is. And I went to the gym and I got on the treadmill and my friend was there, which was actually a trainer. And she said, right, let's just do a warm up. And I was on the treadmill doing my warm up and I started to retch. And she goes, look, you're not well. I think you should just go and lie down. And I knew it wasn't, I was sick. I was literally just processing the horror of what I was just realising. Yeah. And as I walked back to my apartment, I was phoning our cleaner and I had a nanny at the time. I was like, do you wear contact lenses? And I phoned my PA. And they were like, sorry, you know we don't. No. Are you all right? Are you all right? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I didn't say anything to anyone.
I'm feeling this. It feels horrible. Yeah.
But I didn't say anything to anyone because it was almost like if I say there's a contact lens box in my bedside table and no one goes down there and this must mean something more than there's a random contact lens box in my drawer. I didn't want to make it more real. So I didn't talk about it to anyone for weeks and weeks. It was when I got an email that came into my account that I realised it was because we worked together and I was in the open plan office and there must have been, I don't know, about 80 staff in the office that day.
Yeah.
And I had an office, but I was sitting at my PA's desk and we were going through the joint email account with his emails, my emails all coming in and I was sorting them all out. And there was an email that just said, hi, great to meet you and this other person. Did you enjoy island hopping? And I knew that he was in our Australia office, but he was out there with somebody else.
Right.
And that's, I just remember looking at my PA's face because to me, I was like, this isn't real.
Yeah.
And I looked at her face and in that moment,
you knew.
I knew it was real.
Right.
And that's when my whole world changed, to be honest. That felt like everything just started spinning and I had people coming up to me saying, can you sign this off? Or can we have that meeting? Or are you coming to, and I was just sat there and my PA was like, okay.
And you had a 2-year-old?
Yeah.
5 years, you
was
thought
one,
everything was
actually,
absolutely
still
one.
one, yeah.
You thought everything was absolutely fine. And then you're having to deal with this alone. You've got a business together, so you're totally integrated
Yeah.
on every single level.
Yeah.
And you're
I
feeling
loved him.
totally betrayed, and you loved him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks. I mean, there's nothing else to say about it, is it? That sucks. And it sucks totally.
That sucks.
I know that you did have a defining moment though, didn't you? In on a beach, or was it in?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So I spent a lot of, probably the next 2 months doing a lot of ugly crying.
Yeah.
I couldn't eat.
Necessary.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I could keep down, weirdly, because I couldn't drink it now, was Costa hot chocolate.
Right.
I don't understand that. But anyway, that's what I lived on for literally 2 months. So I had the divorce diet going on. I mean, I dropped like 2 dress sizes.
Yeah.
Silver lining at the time. So
Yeah,
I still had some of my
exactly.
baby weight.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. But, I knew the person that he had the affair with. And I knew no, but I'd met her.
Right.
And she's beautiful.
Shame on you, whoever you are. Yeah.
But she was beautiful.
Yeah.
And in my own head, I was looking at it going, well, I can kind of see the obvious upgrade here, because I was married and I'd had my baby and I was all about my baby, and I wasn't going to the gym and I wasn't doing those things. And she was
Well, you know we're not going to go down this road with
I
you.
know. But this was my state of mind at the time. Right.
Okay.
And also I'd been in what was quite a difficult relationship. So my confidence was low. My self-esteem was probably low.
You'd been undermined.
I felt, like I wasn't myself.
Yeah.
So I'd gone to our Australia office, and I don't know if anyone's listening ever had this, but when your partner's had an affair, obviously a lot of people knew about it, apart from me and my PA, it seemed, really. So when they find out that they suddenly go, oh, Sara, thank God you know, because 3 months ago I was doing this and this is how I found out. And yet I don't think they realise how painful that is, because that's another dagger. Yeah. That's another, reliving that moment and another embarrassment, humiliation, overwhelm. It's just too much. Yeah. And so they're well-meaning because they supported me and they were trying to say.
It's like saying, I knew. And it's bringing you back to the reality of the discovery again.
And just how much the deception was there.
Yeah.
So I'd sort of left the office and I'd gone for a walk down Balmoral Beach, which is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. So it's like, if you can picture white sand, huge beach, turquoise sea. They've got a beautiful cafe where people go for cool brunches and things. Yeah. And I sat on this little wall looking out there, and they're like cockatoos coming down like pigeons in Trafalgar Square. Wow. I mean, it was just beautiful. Yeah. But I was sobbing, and I was in so much physical pain from the emotional heartbreak and the whole trauma of reliving what this colleague had said to me. And there was a moment where I thought, what am I doing? Who am I becoming? Like, I was being dragged into a very difficult divorce process. I didn't understand it. It was overwhelming. I was scared. I felt like an idiot in the process, because even though I had a great law firm, the language, I didn't understand it. It was a whole new world. It was legal
and a world
speak.
that you thought that you'd never get to learn about beforehand anyway, because why would you?
Yeah. Why? Yeah. And I was scared.
Balmoral Beach.
Yeah. So I sat there going, okay, I've had enough of the pain. I cannot do this anymore. I need help. And I tried therapy. Therapy hadn't worked for me in that moment, because I needed something much more constructive. I've been a coach for 15 years at that point. So I was like, right, I need to figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to dial down these emotions. How do I take my power back? And what do I do to move forward? Right, if there's no help out that, I'm going to create some tools to get me through, to get my son through, just to help me bounce back. This is it now. Enough. You cannot break me unless I give you permission. Yeah. And I now refuse. If you are struggling with a breakup, divorce, or domestic abuse, then you're not alone. Do reach out. You can try our online support groups for free for a week to get some support from my accredited coaches, and also find your tribe, or come and get some one-to-one coaching with one of my coaches too. So you can find more information about that on my website, saradavison.com.
And actually, can I just say, I'm hearing the girl who at 20 went to Coca-Cola and then basically left and set up her own business.
Yeah.
Because you were always there.
Yeah.
And people have always got that strength inside of them. It's just that it got lost,
Yeah.
and then you found it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly when my motto was born, that was, screw you,
Yeah.
watch this.
Right.
And from that moment, that pivotal moment on Balmoral Beach, everything shifted.
Wow.
That's when I created my mission, that I was going to go and help as many people cope better with breakup as I possibly could around the world, because no one was going to have to feel like I
Huzzah!
because there was no help.
Yeah.
And there needed to be help.
Yeah.
Why was there no help?
Well, exactly. Why was there no help?
I don't know.
Was there any help anywhere in the world? Well, I mean, divorce coaches, did they exist? Did they exist anywhere else before?
I mean, I didn't know of any. I didn't find any.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were, but I mean, not doing the things that we're doing and
Yeah.
the tools that I use. I mean, it was more sort of therapy or people that have been in law that were then supporting people through that, I think, rather than the emotional tools.
So that's where it all started.
Yeah.
Balmoral Beach.
Yeah.
Basically.
But when everyone on the planet goes through heartbreak, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
But I
We
was
all
looking
have.
for support.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. There was, give up, to stop smoking or stop drinking or to lose weight. A million groups I could have joined. But I needed help with heartbreak.
Well, how do you start then? Where did you start? Because you come up with the plan. I mean, obviously you did your business plan when you were 20, so you were well versed in doing these things like this. You've worked in business, you've developed things. So then it had to be a combination of the two, the emotional side, but also the business side as well. And that to me seems like a really interesting combination, because it's like you have to put your business head on, but there's this huge emotional element to it as well, and it's combining the two.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I was in survival mode.
Yeah.
So I had to create some tools to get me through, because there were so many emotions. It was the devastation and the heartbreak.
Yeah.
It was the low self-esteem and no confidence.
Yeah.
It was the betrayal, but it was also looking at the other person that had just literally stepped into my life. And, my ex was madly in love, really in love. And, she was in our office. She was everywhere. He was living with her.
She was in the office.
Yeah. So
When you were in the office.
well, she was made a director of our company,
Okay.
and I was removed.
Okay.
And they also moved into a penthouse in the same apartment development that I was living with my son on the first floor.
Emotional intelligence springs to mind, or lack of. Yes. Go on.
I just think it was very convenient for them, and it was a nice place to be. And we obviously, he was working in the same office that I was working.
Painful for you though.
Oh,
So you're
I
having
mean,
to
yeah.
go through all of this, but at the same time you've got this drive and determination to sort yourself out, protect yourself and your son, and move
Yeah.
on. So what were the tools that you found really useful when you were going through that?
I think that's the real moment where I was like, I need to take control of the remote to my own brain here.
Yeah.
Because it's spiraling. Understandably, normal human reaction when that happens is to freak the hell out and
Yeah.
start doing things you wouldn't do, like stop eating and just cry all the time and phone my mum at 2 a.m. and a lot of that ugly, proper ugly crying,
Yeah.
the snot and the
Which is
tears.
important.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
you need to go
normal.
through that.
It's normal, but even there's no magic wand to take the pain away, but there are lots of things you can do to help you dial down those negative emotions, to take your power back, to reframe things in your head, like, well, why is he with her and not me? Or what's wrong with me?
To change the dialogue.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah. Which is what you do in your coaching.
Yeah.
So can you remember the first person that you coached? I'm just interested.
Well, actually, it was my lawyer, Fiona Shackleton, and her firm are actually sponsoring this episode, which is great. Because
right.
It's very fitting.
Huzzah.
I know. And,
Yeah.
and she was a fantastic support for me, and her associate at the time, who's now a partner at Payne Hicks Beach, Ben Parry Smith, both of them were incredible.
Yeah.
But it was Fiona Shackleton who said to me, Sara, you should write a book, because the tools that you are using to support yourself, she said, oh, great. Could you speak to another one of my clients who's struggling?
Perfect.
So I actually spoke to somebody just as a friend, just to say, look, I get it. I'm going through it. Try this. And she was like, wow, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Have you got any more? And I was like, well,
Yeah.
actually, I do.
Yes.
And Fiona said, you should really write a book with this, because it works. And that was my first book, Uncoupling.
Right.
It was basically everything that I created to get me through it, to help my son, to help me. And that's
that's
took off.
where it started.
It was a bestseller overnight, yeah.
That's amazing. And it all grew from there.
It
So
did.
you basically took everything, you turned it around again, and once again, you phoenix-like grew out of the ashes and recreated it, which I think is admirable, actually. And I think it's a great talent to have. Do you think that what you've done now is that you've grown a global business out of all of this? If let's just say that there's somebody watching this and they're actually going through a divorce at the moment, you've talked to so many people, you've helped so many people. What were the mistakes that most people make? Are there the really obvious mistakes that when you just know now that you're just so used to hearing them, that you can tell people, and so that they are aware that it is a mistake and not to do it?
I think it's such a good question. I think there's so many things. I think people think there's nothing they can do, and time is a good healer, and that old adage is very true, I guess. But there are so many things you can do to speed up that breakup process and that recovery process. And I think that's what you've got to hang on to have the hope that this will pass. We've all been through really tough times in life. And look at you, you bounce back. We do get through them. Otherwise, whoever's listening, watching, they won't be here today. So everyone has that survival instinct in them and have used it on multiple times to get to where we are today. And so everyone has it within them. And it's about just saying, it's okay. I've been through tough times before. I can do this again. And then learning some of the tools that are going to fast track it. So just having the belief, having a good support system around you. I mean, you were an amazing friend to me.
I want to go back to it because this is really important for me, because basically you turned it all around. So now you're in a position where you can help so many people out there. You're coaching other coaches. You've set up the coaching, okay, I'm going to get it wrong now. You're going to have to tell me the
International Divorce Coach Centre of Excellence.
Thank you very much. And so you're helping other people help other people, which is fantastic.
I started coaching myself and then realised there was a real need for this kind of help, and I couldn't do it on my own. And because my mission is to get these tools out and help as many people as possible, because they really freaking work. So I'm like, let's get them out. On my own, I can't do it. So then I had people coming to me saying, can you train me? And so I did my first training and I realised that it works and people wanted it. So then I set up my training school, and
you just had your most recent conference, which was highly successful.
It was so
which
exciting.
Was amazing. And it was so nice to see everybody there as well. And then you brought in the speakers as well. So in a way, you're combining everything that you've learned from your life and bringing it to this pivotal moment where you're actually just making the world just a little bit of a happier place. I wanted to mention before we close on the family courts, because I know that you're doing some great work on that, because I know there are quite a few issues that need to be dealt with the family law courts in the UK. What would you say the biggest problems are at the moment? Because I know that you're lobbying and you go to Parliament.
So one of the things I do that's most important to me is that I'm the patron of the Dash charity, which is Dash stands for Domestic Abuse Stops Here. And I've been working with them for, must be since 2018, 19, I think. And they support people dealing with domestic abuse, men, women and children. We have refuges as well, so for people that are fleeing and need accommodation. And because I struggled to really understand about domestic abuse and what it was and toxic relationships, and I didn't really understand it till I was catapulted out of my relationship. And with hindsight, I've been in several abusive relationships in the past, and there was a pattern. And so that journey of understanding what it is, how we get in, why we stay, why do we? Most people will say, why didn't you get out if it was that bad? I mean, it just doesn't work like that for so many reasons. So for me, I was very passionate about helping survivors of domestic abuse, toxic relationships, narcissistic abuse. So a lot of my guests on my podcast are all about domestic abuse because it's so important to me. So because of my profile, I'm able to sort of campaign and I get invited to Parliament to talk about these issues.
Which is great.
Talk about some of the things that I went through in the family court system, which was nothing short of state-sanctioned abuse. I pick a lot of the clients I work with are dealing with trauma from the family court system. I've met some amazing women that I've interviewed on my podcast before, but people like Adrienne Barnett, Natalie Page, Charlotte Proudman, Claire Waxman, Nicole Jacobs, the list goes on. I mean,
the media occasionally bring it up, don't they? And then it just seems to sink again. That there's the family law courts are so antiquated, and they're saying that they need to be totally revamped because things are happening which should not be happening.
There's been surveys which show that victims of abuse are re-traumatized by the family courts. 80% of victims who went through the family court process said they were traumatized by the court process and the professionals within it, not just their ex. So they do become the mouthpiece of abuse, and that's something that I'm very vocal about, and really we need to change it. It's difficult in the family court system for lots of reasons: lack of funding, lack of time. The judge doesn't get to understand the ins and outs, so that's why certain so-called experts are brought in. I've witnessed it. Yeah, I've seen it with clients. I've witnessed my own personal experiences. I've seen it. It's just too much and too overwhelming, and shocking, horrifying. And absolutely devastating.
But Sara's on the case, so we're going to get it sorted. Her and her tribe.
But, I mean, there's a lot of great people that are working towards that. So,
it just seems to be happening. It seems to be taking too much time from what you've been saying. It seems to be, I'd like it to be moving at a faster pace.
We all would.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about the online support groups you do, which sounds like such a good idea. Can you tell me about them?
Yeah, because this is everything I wish I'd had when I was looking for support. There was nothing. So I felt very isolated. And when you're coming out of any kind of breakup, especially toxic relationships as well, you can feel that isolation. One of the tactics of abuse is to isolate. So you're away from your family. Also, friends get fed up of hearing about your heartbreak, right? There's like, come on, you should be moving on. But it's hard. So I created online support groups, which are run by my coaches. So I have a training school. I train people to become breakup and divorce coach practitioners. As you said, we've trained over 650 coaches now across 27 different countries.
Amazing.
And then they can go on and specialize in domestic abuse and toxic relationships if they want to, because a lot of people that do the training have never done any coaching before. So you don't have to have done anything, which is the beauty, because I've been doing coaching for so long, nearly 3 decades, that I have a way of fast tracking you through the tools that make the difference, that what I call blow the doors off. It's not basic 101
Can
coaching.
I just say, I want to interrupt here because I think it's really important that people understand that you've had some pretty hard-nosed journalists come to your Heartbreak to Happiness retreats, the sort of people that would easily poo-poo you and vilify you if they thought that you were taking advantage of people who are going through a vulnerable emotional state at that moment in time in their lives. And yet they've all come out singing your praises. So the tools that you were talking about actually do work. Yeah. And the coaches that I've met and I've talked to are really happy with the coaching that you've done. And I think that's an important point to make, because it's fine us saying, that you do this, but actually it's the effects of what you do which are really important to focus on as well.
Yeah, and every day on my Instagram, so that I get so many lovely comments. Yeah, that how it's helping people, and in some cases saving lives is something that really is like incredible, to be honest. But those groups are what that's all about, because you can go on and it's free for a week. So I just want everyone to be able to access it. It's 8 hours in a week that you can attend. So you go on a Zoom. They're run by my accredited coaches. They specialize in domestic abuse. They've all trained to a high level with me, and they've been with me for years, the coaches that are running those groups. And I've trained them in everything I know. So basically they're there hosting a group. You can share your story. You can hear other people's stories. You can just sit there and listen. You can get your questions answered. This is an environment where most of my coaches are survivors. They've been through a tough time, or they've been working in this industry for such a long time. They've got a real depth and breadth of knowledge. So that's how we do it. And then after that, it's less than £1 an hour anyway, if you want to stay in and do those groups.
I mean, you can meet people who are going through the same thing, which always makes you feel better, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably my proudest achievement, those online groups.
Yay! Yeah. It's great that you're doing these online support groups. I'm just thinking that personally, I know that when I've been working in studios or working in particular offices in the past, when people have gone through a lot of stuff, it can make you feel quite lonely and isolated, even when you've got loads of people around you. So can you help people in the office space? Can you help with HR and things like that as well? Yeah, we do actually. In fact, that's something that's shifted in the last couple of years. We're working with some companies. We work with Volvo, Regatta, we work with some big advertising agencies, insurance firms. And we have a platform that anyone who is working with a company that's working with us can access all our products anonymously. So they can come on, have a look at the support resources hub, listen to some of my videos, read one of my books is on there for free, join our online groups, and also have one-to-one coaching with our coaches as well. So
a lot of companies now are building this into their employment benefit package, purely because there's so much research out there now that shows that if you're dealing with a divorce, just a divorce, forget the toxic side of it.
Yeah.
A divorce will reduce your productivity in the workplace by up to 40%.
40%.
Yeah.
Wow.
For 3 years as well.
I mean, I knew that obviously it has an impact, because you can see it when you're working with people, and you can see they get distracted, and I mean, on the small level there's a distraction. On the other side, there's the one they sometimes just don't turn up for work.
Yeah.
So I can see that happens, but 40% is a huge amount.
Yeah. 9 out of 10 say that it's impacted their mental health, their ability to show up. Absenteeism skyrockets. I mean, there's so many repercussions, which actually then impacts the bottom line of a company.
Yeah.
Quite dramatically.
How long have you been working with Volvo for now?
We've just recently started working with Volvo, but we've been working in the corporate space for about 18 months.
Okay.
And I'm actually training the British government as well this week.
Oh, wow.
On how to spot the signs of domestic abuse and how to help people dealing with divorce in the workplace. Because it's a big thing, it's not something we can just brush under the carpet.
Yeah. So I can't see you sort of slowing down in the next year or two. What would be the next thing that you want to do?
Oh, there's so many things that I really want to do. I mean, first of all,
top of the list.
I mean, I haven't got anywhere near my mission yet to get the tools out to as many people as possible.
Okay.
There's a lot of work I want to do. I want to translate all my tools into different languages so they can be around the world. That's something I really want to focus on over the next 6 to 12 months. Building the coaches, so having more coaches on board. I've got a third book I've just finished writing, so I'm very excited to get that out soon. Doing more podcast episodes, I love that, interviewing amazing people, getting their opinions out there.
Well, actually, that's a nice sequitur, because what I want to say to you now is what you say to people at the end. Sara Davison, what is it that makes you happy?
Oh, yes, I do always ask that question. I mean, for me, it's spending time with my son.
Yeah.
He's my world. Like, I know I have a lot of things going on, but everything stops for him. I'm super proud of him. He's an absolute gift, really. And I think that's why I'm here, to be his mum. Like, I love our relationship and love spending time with him. He's 16 now, though, so spending time with him is more
He's
rare.
a lovely boy.
Yeah. So when he's around, like 100% of my attention. And my dog Toffee, I love spending time with her. But spending time with my friends like you, and like I'm lucky to have some really great people in my life. My team at work are amazing. Like, I have such support. I'm in the position where I only work with people I really like working with. So I have an amazing team. I couldn't do it without them. And I've met the most empowering people, especially women. Like, I've always been, like, when I started out, one of the only women in the room when I work. And what I found with what I'm doing now, especially with the domestic abuse campaigning, there's so many incredibly strong women that I'm just blessed to work with every day. And they inspire me, and that drives me. And then my clients and the people that we're helping, I mean, that's incredible. The feedback we get, the support, the love. You look past the trolling and those things, but the nice reward, all that makes me happy. When one person says, Sara, this has made a difference to me, a positive difference to me, that's happiness. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Maybe that's where you get your drive, because the thing is, you give out so much and then you get so much coming back in as well. Sara, that's been amazing. I've loved listening to your story. I know bits of it already, but it's just been lovely listening to it again. And I can see now where you get the drive from, why you've achieved so much, and how you have. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you for interviewing me.
My pleasure.
It's been so much fun. Great questions. Been fun. Thank you, honey. Mwah. Love you lot.
Take care. Love you too.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, please don't forget to click the subscribe button, as that really helps us to continue improving our podcast for you. Now, today's episode was sponsored by Payne Hicks Beach, who are arguably one of the strongest family law firms in the country, providing enviable strength and depth in both financial and children law areas. Now, as I said before, not only are they best in class in the courtroom and around the negotiating table, after years of experience in supporting clients through the most vulnerable times of their lives, they have recently launched a new resource on mental health and family breakdown, which is leading the family law industry in looking at ways to guide, support, and help clients through some of their darkest days. Now, you can reach them by contacting vhinkston@phb.co.uk. And of course, don't forget to quote Sara Davison as well. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. Don't forget to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on our next episode.
That's it for today's episode of Heartbreak to Happiness. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to win a free ticket to one of Sara's virtual retreats. The retreats are a transformative combination of live webinars with Sara herself, coupled with empowering online video programs designed to help you cope better with your breakup and start feeling happy again. For more details, head on over to heartbreakttohappinesspodcast.com, where you can also get a copy of Sara's free gift. Thank you, and join us again on the next episode for another dose of Heartbreak to Happiness.